Welcome, and thanks for joining us today to discuss how to choose the best tactics and know they're working. My name is Sally Earle, and I'm Marketing Services Manager at Mass Marketing. I'm also your host for today's Funnel Forum. I hope you're looking forward to an engaging, thought-provoking, and challenging session. I'm moderating this Funnel Forum, and I want to invite you to ask lots of questions via the panel on your screen whilst Hugh and John are presenting today. I'll try to get you answers from our speakers at the conclusion of today's call. First, let me share a little bit about Funnel Forum. Funnel Forum is an online meeting of sales and marketing executives to discuss the problems they face in managing their funnel. These issues are drawn from ours and our partners' experience helping companies such as CA, IBM and Vodafone. We have 7,000 subscribers to our thought leadership series Funnel Vision, and over the last 12 years have completed 300 projects across 4 continents. We'll make a recording of today's session available over the next couple of days. Let me now introduce our first presenter, Hugh Macfarlane. Hugh Macfarlane is founder and CEO of Mass Marketing. He has personally led over 200 sales and marketing planning projects in Australia and Asia, whilst Mass Marketing and its partners have trained B2B marketers in Asia, Europe and North America via Funnel Academy. They've also helped many leading and aspiring businesses to develop a clear plan for growth with Funnel Camp. Hugh's passion is ramping the performance of sales and marketing with clear plans and the skills to execute. He is the author of The Leaky Funnel and a widely published writer and speaker on all matters funnel. John Cousineau is CEO of Innovative Information. With Innovative Information, John is leading efforts to improve sales productivity, especially business to business, via innovative uses of information and technology. Amicus is one of his vehicles for doing so. John has spent over 30 years harnessing the capabilities of technology and information in ways that inform and accelerate business productivity. Through a combination of good luck and good mentors, he has pioneered the use of emerging technologies throughout his career. Hugh and John will now explain the 2 keys to selecting the right tactics and know if they're working. Knowing what's supposed to happen, then knowing what is happening. They'll then conclude by offering some concrete suggestions about how to bring a little rigour to this process of sales and marketing.
Hi, Hugh Macfarlane here. Thanks for allowing me an opportunity to share with you a few thoughts about my most passionate topic, helping marketing to contribute more to your business's revenue. You may have heard me talk about alignment before, so I'm going to be brief on this occasion. I'm going to use this section to set some context for an exciting new way to measure effectiveness, which John will share a little later on. Alignment gets talked about all the time, but why? Let's start by clearing up whether alignment is even worth chasing. We teamed up with marketingprofs.com and got a detailed data from 1,400 businesses across 84 countries. And the first thing we learned was that marketing got this one right. This is an A-list topic. 5.4, 38 and 36. These are 3 figures that have guided change projects in many companies across the globe. Those companies that had done a great job of aligning sales and marketing were outgrowing their same industry competitors by a massive 5.4 points of growth. So, if the industry was growing at 10%, these well-aligned companies were growing at 15.4. That's more than 50% better in the growth department. And they were growing that fast because they were closing 38% more of their proposals, and they were 36% better at hanging on to their customers. So in some sense, this is really simple. Alignment lets you earn more customers, keep more of them, and grow more as a result. But to what do you align? Well, for a start, sales and marketing don't need to align to each other. That's not it. That's a very internal view. We found that the best aligned businesses were less focused on using structure and staff rotation between sales and marketing than the poorly aligned ones were. Go figure. You often hear about the importance of aligning sales and marketing, but it's not about aligning sales to marketing or the other way around, but aligning both to the same things. To what things, though? Perhaps aligning to the customer. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? But that's not it either. I'd argue most sales and marketing functions already do align to the customer, but they do it in different ways. The aligned businesses instead relied on aligned processes. Specifically, they aligned to shared objectives, strategy, tactics, and measures. And they bring those elements, objectives, strategy, tactics, and measures, together into a single agreed plan. Today's not so much about planning, so I'm not going to labour that much. But you might want to take a look at the Resources tab on the Math Marketing website for an example of a single-page plan that ties all these pieces together without losing any of the critical execution detail. The next thing we learned from this landmark study into alignment simply blew us away. Imagine a basic funnel with 4 simple stages: leads, appointments, proposals, and sales. Do you think we'd want to measure marketing on its lead quality? Not just the number, but how many converted to appointments. If marketing does a great job of generating leads, it makes obvious good sense to measure sales and whether they convert those leads into meetings also. And it probably makes sense to measure marketing on the same thing, just to make sure they're really good leads. Okay? But when it comes to converting those meetings into proposals, we're probably only going to measure sales on that. Marketing can do little to influence this particular progression. And now the fun starts. We found that the businesses most likely to focus on measuring sales on the proposed to close ratios were the least well-aligned businesses. The well-aligned ones figured that salespeople don't need to be told to close. It's like telling them to breathe. And worse. If a salesperson spends too much of their time focusing on progressing only those already near the bottom of their funnel, you get that horrible feast to famine thing every quarter. And you know what that looks like, right? Now it gets really odd. The well-aligned businesses, you remember, these are the ones closing 38% more, churning 36% fewer, and growing 5.4 points faster, are more likely than their slower, less well-aligned competitors to measure marketing on that same ratio, proposed to close. Again, the well-aligned businesses were less focused on measuring sales on this proposed to close ratio than their less well-aligned and slower competitors were. But what can marketing do to affect the proposed to close ratio? Well, lots, as it turns out. If marketing is fishing in the wrong pond, sales' job gets hard and the closure ratios suffer. And if marketing's not conditioning those leads to be troubled about the right problem, the one you solve better than your competitors, then they're likely to buy from someone else. As if that wasn't enough, there's a horrible double whammy here too. If marketing creates leads for buyers who welcome the meeting, ask for a proposal, and then don't buy, then sales' time has been wasted. Marketing in those circumstances is actually slowing sales down. In the study I mentioned earlier, Math Marketing and Marketing Prof's Sales and Marketing Alignment Report, we found that the best aligned businesses that were absolutely shooting the lights out compared to their competition measured marketing on how many of their leads convert to revenue. Think about it. If marketing is accountable for leads, they'll give you leads. If they're accountable for meetings, they'll get you leads that convert to meetings. If they're accountable for revenue, they'll get you leads that convert to sales. And don't focus sales too much on closure. Instead, get them busy progressing all of their leads, not just those well down the funnel. Measure what you want to change. So just to summarize that initial section, we need to align sales and marketing around the same thing, the exact same view of the objectives, strategy, tactics, and measures documented into a single shared plan. Now let's take that theory and get totally practical. Sales and marketing need a plan they build, own, and get measured against together. Here are the pieces we have found to be necessary in a shared sales and marketing plan. I'll start with the big chunks and then I'll break it down. For a start, we need to agree the objectives and the strategy. And we need explicit agreement to the tactics that we'll use end to end. And we need to set specific measures that both sales and marketing hold to and are accountable to. They need a complete plan. But let's break that down further, and I'm going to take a quick dive into each of the pieces here. We need explicit agreement on the objectives. And what problem do we solve for our buyers? There's probably many, but which one are we focused on? What solves that problem fully? Because that's what we should sell. Who most has that problem? That's who we should target. Who would be credible at uncovering and discussing that problem? Because that's who we should be selling through. Who else solves that problem, and how good are they at doing it? Because that's our real competition. How mature is our target market in seeking a solution for that problem? Because that'll affect our strategy. What kind of velocity do we need through the funnel? How many do we need at the top? How many sales, that's the bottom, and in the middle, how many responses, meetings, proposals, deals, month by month, quarter by quarter for the next 3 years? And how will we find, interest, trouble, and qualify that many buyers? All the way through to propose, gain preference, and close. Marketing and sales need visibility on all of these decisions. And that's why the plan needs to be complete, but keep it to one page, otherwise no one will read it. Now I mentioned just now that we need to find, interest, trouble, etc., the buyers. Let's dive into that just a little more, because that gives a framework for selecting and deselecting tactics and giving them a clear purpose. We need to look at this from the buyer's perspective, not our perspective. Buyers take a journey. Before we can enjoy the benefits, we must buy. It sounds obvious, but it becomes quite key. Before we can buy, we must decide. And before we decide, we must receive offers. And before we can receive offers, we need to confirm a clear need. And before we confirm a clear need, we need to acknowledge that we have a problem that needs to be solved. And before we acknowledge problem, we're untroubled and unaware. We probably don't acknowledge that problem. We're not troubled by the problem that you solve. We don't even know that you have the ability to solve it necessarily. So our tactics need to be aligned to that journey. We need proof that our sales and marketing efforts are progressing buyers along their journeys. So we need to know what's working and what's not. And that's where I'm going to hand over to John Cousineau, because he has some great insights into measurement that I know you'll enjoy.
Hi, and thanks, Hugh, for allowing me an opportunity to share with you a few thoughts about my most passionate topic, achieving better results by measuring what matters. Traditionally, both sales and marketing have been held to account for the efforts they invest. Sometime later, they're asked to account for the results they got for their efforts. But there's a problem. It can take several weeks or months before results accrue from efforts. Often it's virtually impossible to make a direct connection between what tactics produced which results. In my view, there's a measurement void. Marketing and sales need to know if their shared tactics are triggering advances in buyers' journeys. They also need to know the time and effort it's taking to trigger those advances. Knowing these things will let marketing and sales stop doing things that aren't having an impact. So, how might we do so? Well, in B2B sales, conversations are the key to cash. but savvy salespeople that conversations by themselves are no guarantee of results. They need to be good conversations, or a buyer will never buy. It helps to think of the impact sales efforts ought to have as proof that sales conversations, in the eyes of buyers, are good ones. So, your effort must impact buyer behaviors. Otherwise, it's a waste. For example, you meet someone. They ask about your business. You email them details. Proof that it was a good conversation arrives with a buyer choice to click to retrieve the details you've emailed to them. You call back someone who's read those details. You have another conversation with them. You book a sales appointment. The proof of impact? They show up. You then follow up by emailing them a link to your summary of their requirements as discovered in your meeting with them. The proof of impact? They click to read your summary. And so on it goes through to close. So to know if your tactics are working, you need to measure the impacts on buyer behaviors of your sales and marketing efforts. Then use these metrics to choose tactics wisely with a focus on maximizing the impacts of sales and marketing efforts. They should also let you bail on tactics which are having no impact. Put another way, in B2B sales, effort matters, but return on effort matters more. We define return on effort as the time and effort it takes to get buyers to advance themselves along the buyer journey. Think of it as the touches in time needed to produce funnel velocity and volume. In our experience, when return on effort is measured in ways that both marketing and sales can see and understand, the proof of it will come in its provoking marketing and sales to try new things. As they try new things, they'll discover together tactics that improve return on effort. Practice more often, they're combined best practices. So it's key to have measures of what's happening and with what impact. When known, funnel plans gain a dose of reality and improved agility. It's a whole lot easier to adjust funnel plans when it's clear what's going on. Measuring return on effort, unfortunately, isn't sufficient as a guarantee it will accrue. Underlying sales practices have to line up in a way that improve the odds of return on effort. In other words, what's being measured must be designed to have an impact on the buyer journey. Unless there's some chance of a positive outcome, you're dead in the water no matter how elegant your measurement framework may be. In other words, it's not enough to capture the right measures. You have to do so in ways that are designed to have an impact on buyers' journeys. We found some simple methods that work. They involve using emails to support ongoing conversations with each buyer. Specifically, emailed hyperlinks confirm that a salesperson has listened to the buyer. A buyer's clicks confirm their interests. Just like the rest of us, they're too busy to click to retrieve information that's of no value to them. Clicks trigger notifications to the seller signaling who to call, now, and why. This enables every callback to be a timely and helpful one from the buyer's perspective. And lastly, measures of return on effort help salespeople and their marketing colleagues get things right. In addition to these simple methods, there are three key mandatory conditions that have to be met if return on effort metrics are going to have their desired impacts on buyer journeys. First, our theory is that for buyers, help is really hard to find. Therefore, if we can sell in ways that resonate with buyers as incredibly helpful, buyers will notice. They'll do something extraordinary. They'll engage in the process. Second, we believe salespeople need a new interface to the work that they're doing, which simplifies their view of everything that's going on and helps them make wise choices about what to do next and with whom for maximum impact. Third, we think it's crucial that buyers' behaviors calibrate funnel velocity. Doing so eliminates measurement imprecision. It eliminates internal debates on, so, how's it going? It creates new internal debates on, so what might we do differently to improve results? It creates a common language with which marketing and sales can understand the impacts and try new tactics to deliver added impacts. Simple, eh? Well, not really. At the end of the day, the secret to getting high-quality return on effort metrics is finding ways to make both the buyer experience and seller experience extraordinary. We consider these to be the underlying metrics requirements. At the surface level, salespeople get an interface to their work which makes it clear what impacts they're having from the efforts they're investing. Beneath the surface is a user experience that combines some selling principles, some processes, and information platforms, all integrated using data connectors that make all the little pieces behave like a whole. The user experience is designed to let sellers be exceptionally responsive, understanding, and helpful. It's supported by processes in which feedback informs practices, users get automated assistance in completing sales tasks, and information is consolidated rather than spread all over the screen. It's also supported by information which improves the timing and helpfulness of every sales call. This includes prospect lead scores from marketing automation systems like Marketo or Eloquent, saying which prospects have done enough of their own homework on your website that are now worth calling. It also includes market triggers from vendors like Inside View, saying which companies or leaders are now worth proactively reaching out to because something's happened making them an ideal potential candidate for what you offer. It also includes process and callback triggers like those provided by Amicus. And it also includes CRM data on the underlying relationships between contacts, accounts, and opportunities. With the advent of cloud computing, it's become possible to bring all these things together over the internet through a single, simple interface. It's not just measuring return on effort, it's teeing activities up in ways that improve the odds of salespeople achieving a decent return on effort. It encourages the try that's key to getting the buy. Let's take a closer look at how return on effort can be shown to each salesperson in a one-screen view of what's going on. In our view, return on effort begins with showing up for work, then conversing with prospective buyers, then seeing a response from prospective buyers confirming good conversations occurred. So, let's see if basic efforts are triggering buyer responses. In this case, the users logged on 7 separate business days, had 21 conversations, 15 of which were good ones. Prospects responded by clicking to retrieve details or agreed to a first sales appointment. These counts are being calibrated automatically in real time as the salesperson converses with prospects, then follows up by emailing them information that answers their questions. The type of emails sent by a salesperson automatically counts how many conversations they've had. The buyer responses triggered by those conversations automatically count how many good conversations occurred. Measurement precision is assured because these metrics show what buyers are doing. Impacts are objective and available in real time, not subjective, nor available only when salespeople have filled out reports. The next part of the salesperson's user experience, choosing wisely what to do next and with whom. This requires right timing and right sizing sales efforts with every prospect. There's little point in endlessly reaching out to a prospect one-to-one if those efforts are not delivering any proof of interest on the part of the prospect. Doing so is a waste of the buyer's time. It's also a waste of the seller's efforts. The choices of what to do and with whom should be informed by the return on effort to date and the recency of the salesperson's efforts and impacts. The Amicus user interface queues up smart choices in this fashion. Active prospects available for nurturing are automatically identified and ready for callback as appropriate. New leads ready for follow-up or unsolicited calls are also queued up. Prospects who go stale or stall are automatically moved into one-to-many activities that lower the efforts required of the salesperson. Send an information update, invite them to a webinar. If any of them choose to click wildly and quickly, the system detects it, notifies the salesperson, and lets the rep choose whether or not to try to get back into conversation with the buyer. If a previously stale prospect chooses to re-engage and I send them some subsequent details following a renewed conversation, the system will automatically move them back into my list of active prospects for nurturing. From each of these activities, the goal is to have impacts. In terms of the buyer journey, it requires reaching prospects via a valid email address, then getting them to read details explaining what you do, how well you do it, and why it might matter to them. Some of these will then ask to meet with you to learn how you might do what you do well for them. And some of these will then go on to read proposals. Some will then read terms and conditions, and some will then buy. So again, let's see if it's happening. Amicus counts in real time. Buyers' advances along the buyer's journey. Salespeople would love to log in and close sales. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. It takes time and effort to provoke buyer responses. It requires investing time and effort wisely. When done, impacts accrue faster and with less effort. Simply put, when my return on effort is clear and my ability to influence it is obvious, I'm provoked to try to improve it. My sales manager and marketing colleagues become allies in helping me get a maximum return on effort. So, nice ideas and theories. Does it actually work? Well, of course. It stands to reason. It's simply common sense. Consider some sample impacts we've seen. Typically, salespeople will get 25 to 50% of those they converse with to prove their interests by either clicking to retrieve content or agreeing to a first sales appointment. The best we've ever seen is 85%, and it came from a salesperson who'd never had any formal sales training. She just understood the value of being exceptionally and often unexpectedly helpful. She then sat back and reaped the rewards. Also, typically, we see salespeople closing deals a full metric or more faster than normal. I recall phoning a new user of Amicus 2 weeks into their use of the system to ask how they were doing. Fantastic, came the reply. I suggested they might close a deal the following week given the velocity they were achieving in their funnel. No way. I'm pursuing deals on a 6-month sales cycle, and my current prospects have no need to buy from me for at least another 4 months. By the following Wednesday, she'd closed 3 deals. I checked it again. Assuming the deals she closed were small ones, given how fast they closed. Turns out 2 of them were. The other one was a 6-figure deal closed in 2.5 weeks. Another typical impact is the faster onboarding to peak performance of new sales hire. We have one example of a new hire who went from being a new hire to performance which was in the neighborhood of a pink slip to actually achieving top performing results, and all this occurred within her first 8 weeks on the job. So our shared message today is simple. Have a funnel plan so you know what's supposed to happen, then measure return on effort so you know what is happening, and use it to make smart choices to improve performance against plan. If some or all of this resonates with you, there are 3 specific steps you can take today with our help. Hugh?
Thanks, John. If you'd like to help your sales and marketing teams ensure that they're choosing the right tactics and know that they're doing so, there are 3 basic steps that you can take today. Like many of the best proven processes, it starts with knowing where you're at, a baseline, if you will. You need to get the key functions of the business to agree what they already agree. We usually start with sales, marketing, finance, and operations, whatever form they take in your business. What are your objectives? What markets do you agree are targets, and which ones do you have disagreement on? What channels do you use to reach each of those markets? And are there markets that some of these channels are not supposed to sell into? It's surprising how even those most basic of questions flushes out disagreement that needs to be dealt with. Next, you need to re-agree the plan. You need a single plan that all agree with. Once again, what are the objectives? What markets are key and which are off limits? There's no point marketing finding buyers who are different from the ones that sales is ready to deal with. And if sales is off in markets that marketing hasn't pre-positioned with, then we lose any sort of synergy. What tactics will you use to move buyers through every stage of their journey? From finding their names, then positioning with, troubling, establishing credentials, agreeing clear needs, offering compelling solutions, enjoining stakeholders, beating the competition, and locking in a contract. Top to bottom. There's no point sales treating marketing leads like strangers if they've already read 3 white papers, attended 2 events, and completed a profiling survey, is there? And you already know the power of measuring sales on how many of marketing's leads they get in front of, and measuring marketing on which of their campaigns generate leads that convert to revenue, and which campaigns just make the sales force busy and not rich. Then capture metrics that reveal the return on effort you're achieving in sales and how your return on effort is being affected by marketing's tactics. Use this feedback together with marketing to hone your best tactics and improve your return on effort. Depending on what your alignment review shows, it can take as little as a week or 2 for us to begin delivering these kinds of metrics for you and your colleagues. The good news is that we're going to help you to kick this off. Firstly, we'll send you an email shortly with a recording of today's funnel forum. Then we'll offer an alignment review of your senior leadership team's understanding of your objectives, strategy, tactics and measures. We'll provide you with a crisp report into the key gaps in your business and what you can do to fix those gaps. And best of all, for qualified businesses, there's no charge for this review. We believe that you'll love the clarity so much that you'll ask us to stick around and help you build a plan, or to teach you how to build it yourself and measure the effectiveness of your implementation efforts. So, 2 actions from here. Stand by to hear from us with links to a recording of this funnel forum, plus an offer of a free alignment review. And 2, apply for that free alignment review by contacting me or John.
Thanks, Hugh. We'll now answer some of the questions from the chat room. Hugh, I'm going to direct our first question to you. The question is, to what extent do you believe in social media for B2B?
Thanks, Sally. It's a bit of a loaded question, though, isn't it? To some extent, I'm not for or against any tactic. The trick is to be very precise about what progression we're asking our buyers to make, so that we set the tactic a clear task and measure the tactic against whether it moved enough buyers from one stage in their journey to the next. With any new tactics, social media in this case, there is some value in harnessing the, I might say, temporarily high response rates enjoyed by any new tactic until the market tires of it. An example is LinkedIn groups. About 18 months ago, we were seeing very high responses, very high interest in those forums within LinkedIn. Now they seem to have become passé and often even overused. Whereas the regular connection management aspects of LinkedIn remain a great research tool. Right now, video blogging is hot, so we use it as a great credential tactic. Twitter's still worth a run, I believe, to get more people to read your articles. But like perhaps Facebook, this is more applicable in consumer markets, and we think it's going to die down reasonably quickly.
Great, thanks, Hugh. John, the next one's for you. The question is, hi John, we need a system that encompasses CRM and marketing automation. There are so many options out there that I'm finding the process of selection very confusing. What are the 3 most important things I should be looking for?
Great question. Thanks for asking. I guess my take on this would be that the first thing I'd look for is simplicity. Too often, in my view, the process of selecting a technology becomes a button fest in which you end up looking for solutions that give you the most buttons which could be pressed if they were ever needed. I actually think it's time to whittle down the solutions that marketing and salespeople use to the few core pieces they need with which to get their jobs done faster and more effectively. Bottom line, avoid complexity. It's a killer. The second thing I'd look for is extendable simplicity. And by that what I mean is you should look for solutions that let you add one tiny bit of functionality at a time as a need for something extra becomes obvious. And the third thing I'd look for is proof that the whole solution you'll be implementing has in its combined effects an actual impact on sales productivity. There's no better proof of impact, in my view, than what customers do. So look for solutions which measure it in the context of your sales process and efforts, and you'll be well on your way.
Great, thanks, John. Hugh, I've got another one for you. The question is, Hugh, I know I need to choose tactics that progress buyers through their journey. In the wake of the recession, though, my budget is still limited. Any tips for choosing tactics in this kind of economic climate?
Well, I like this one. Thanks. I'm not sure that you like the answer, though. The right tactics to use in a recession are the ones you already are using. Just fewer of them. Rhythm is critical in the best of times, but even more so when buyers are nervous. So if you've built a plan to execute over a 3-year period, then hold to that plan. Don't change it. But if your budget's hurting, and many are, find big-ticket tactics that may not be rhythmic anyway, and lose them. Maybe lose them permanently. Trade shows are likely to be a casualty, and I'd say think hard about any advertising that only has an environmental effect. And by that I mean it's branding and positioning. Your demand generation tactics should be doing a good enough job of positioning you anyway. And you get the benefit of being able to measure which of them are working. Right, John?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Hugh. John, one final question for you that ties into Hugh's last point. The question is, hi John, I'm in marketing and a big believer in measurement. The only thing is that our salespeople are hopeless at keeping our CRM up to date. How do I convince them that measurement is important?
Well, not with guns. Another great question. You know, Hugh and I could discuss this one all day. Suffice it to say that in my view, it's important to do two things. And I'd start by eliminating the reporting burden for salespeople. It's work they hate doing, and quite frankly, they're lousy at it. You know, my view is you should be trying to capture metrics automatically by observing what salespeople and their customers are doing. If you can do that, it eliminates both a reporting burden and makes the metrics far more reliable and meaningful. And the second thing is, you know, you should give your marketing and salespeople metrics on how successfully they're having an impact on customers. You know, in my experience, when marketing and salespeople can see and understand the impacts they're having, they learn together to have more impact. As they learn more, they earn more. You know, measurement's just a means to an end, and when it's done properly, everyone wins.
Thanks, John. That marks the end of today's session. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.